little embarrassing to be talking to you today and saying even a little bit about my own public service experience when I'm sharing a podium with both Drew Ramey, who is responsible for so much work to bring diversity and to encourage public service in the legal profession in California and in this country, but also with Terry Stewart, who I not only respect so immensely as a lawyer, but embarrass myself in front of nearly every time by saying that she's the reason I was able to get married. So I'm really pleased to have both of them here and to try not to humiliate myself too much by following after them. I also want to say that it is humbling to speak to you all about public service because you know better than anyone how much time law school takes. And finding extra time to do public service work during that is a real sacrifice and really shows your values. But I'll say a little more about that later. I want to tell you two true stories. Actually, I want to tell you one story with two parts. And like I said, it's true. It's a true coincidence. It's not just a story coincidence. Both of these happened to me within about 8 hours of me registering for the law school admissions test. The summer before, wow, that's a long time ago. The summer before my senior year in college, I took time off and I spent 3 months living and working at a homeless shelter in Phoenix, Arizona. It's what's called a Catholic worker house. The Catholic worker movement was this leftist, but not terribly progressive, leftist movement among Catholics during the Depression that was about addressing unfair treatment of workers and hunger and homelessness. And the modern legacy of this is homes across the country, including one in San Francisco, where residents and what would otherwise be the staff of the homeless shelter live together. The founder, Dorothy Day, her philosophy was that we would deal with hunger by just feeding that one hungry person outside our own door. We're just inviting that one homeless person on our own doorstep in. And so the staff and the residents, who were always small, lived together in homes. And I was doing that for a summer when I was 21. And 2 or 3 weeks in, I met a woman named Kim. Kim was she was either Korean or Korean American, not sure which. She had very little English, and she had really significant mental illness problems, in addition to her being otherwise homeless if she wasn't with us. And she had moved from agency to agency. She had a single hefty trash bag of possessions when she came to us, and she really had nowhere else to go. We were the last place before she really fell entirely off the map. She was at the shelter, she was at the house, it's been a while. She was at the house for a couple of days, and on the third night, I was the staff person staying with the residents in the women's house with 4 other women. And they went to bed. I filled out my LSAT application, which used to be done by Bubble. I'm sure it's done online now. Dating yourself, if you remember that. And I woke up after I had gone to sleep because there was a commotion. And I went out, and Kim and the other residents of the house were fighting. We're in a physical altercation. And it was because Kim had woken up and had slipped into a kind of psychotic episode and had started putting on everyone else's clothes in the house. They, because they didn't have many possessions, thought their possessions were being stolen. So she began to bite and to scratch and to punch the other women and had to be removed. And through a series of events, at about 2:30 in the morning, I am sitting on the porch step. All of her possessions in a bag that I put them back in are on the sidewalk. And she is standing there holding it, looking at me. And for the next 40 minutes, she asked me just 2 questions. She says, "Come in, can I come back into the house?" And I say, "No, Kim, you can't." And she says, "Why?" And she didn't know. And I said, "You hurt the other women, and so you're not allowed to ever come back into the house." And after about 40 minutes, it's a long time ago, after about 40 minutes, the neighbors started complaining because they could hear voices outside. And so she had to go. And I went back in the house, and she left, and I never saw her again. And I tell that story, the depressing story that Terry said not to tell. I tell that story because that's an experience of powerlessness that I had. That's an experience of really hopelessness. As I went to bed that night, I really had no hope for her, and I never saw her again. About 4 hours later, I woke because, again, there was a commotion in the house. There's a lot of commotion outside. And it was because the police had arrived, and they were taping this very large white piece of paper onto the front of our house, one of the two houses. We had a men's house and a women's house. And it was a notice of violation, and telling us that we would be arrested if we continued to provide services to the homeless, because the house was located in what's called a transient and inebriate zone. And if you are a business or organization that attracts transients or inebriates, you must have a license, you must have a permit to do your business. And while the 25-cent movie place a block away, and the 3 liquor stores within 2 blocks, and the hourly rate hotel across the street all had their permits, we had applied every year and been denied, and continued to do what we were doing. And the police made it clear that this was the last time. They were tired of the attraction we created for homeless people in Phoenix. And so we would be arrested if we continued to do what we were doing. Pro bono lawyers from the local Catholic parish and who were volunteers at our organization came in, had one of those painful conversations where you tell people that really the police are not on your side this time, and society is not on your side, and you in fact could go to jail as early as that afternoon when we do what we did every day, which was we fed about 900 people on the street. But over the next 3 months, including once I had gone back to school, our lawyers were in court repeatedly. And they went to, and our lawyer volunteers and others went to city council meetings, went to planning commission meetings. They both used the law and fought the law. And in the end, permanently changed the way the city of Phoenix enforces that law, such that it wouldn't even exist now, because it's unenforceable. And it was a dramatic legal victory for us. It was an experience, even though I was not a lawyer, even though I hadn't even applied to law school at that point. It was an experience of being given agency, of being given power, of feeling like I could influence and participate in my society. I tell those 2 stories because I think it's a fundamental lesson about public service and about pro bono work. That we need to recognize those very few circumstances where we in fact can do almost nothing, where the circumstances truly lack a viable solution. And those many other circumstances that lack only someone willing to take up the cause, that lack only you, that lack only a lawyer or some other committed individual who has the values and has the commitment to say, I'll try, and to go forward. I came to GGU as a professor, like many of you did, like many of you came here as a student, in part because of its commitment to public interest, in part because it had a staff, it had a faculty, and it had a student body and programs and courses that really and truly reflected that commitment. In the 3 years that you've been here, you have seen that we are a place that publicly declares itself as being in the public interest and is supporting public service. We want to teach you skills for real public interest work, real pro bono work as soon as you're lawyers. We have people with a depth of experience, Professor Rutberg, Professor Calhoun, who not only brought incredible experience to what they do as professors, but have taken time out and still do to do public interest and pro bono work. We have public interest values in the classroom. Professor Van Cleve's course about disaster relief, Professor Benedetto Nietzsche's course on poverty law. We have tried to be a place that creates for you all the opportunities and gives to you all the skills that you will need. So when you leave here, you are ready right away to start creating situations that won't be hopeless, that will create power. I could go on about the school. Any of you who have had me as a teacher know I'm a big GGU promoter, and I could certainly go on about my faculty colleagues. But instead, I just want to share a message from the faculty and staff colleagues to you all. You may not be able to fix all the problems, to cure all the injustices that exist out there, but my advice to you, our advice to you, is begin now. You have been given so much more in the last 3 to 4 years in ability, in access to power, in an ability to test things, to evaluate how to go forward, than you can possibly conceive of. When I was a 1L professor, I would do that shocking thing where every new year I would walk in and think, oh my God, what happened? Because the 1Ls last year were brilliant. And these guys don't know anything. And it was because I would forget what happens in 2 semesters. And you have had 6 of them. Some of you 7, some of you 8, to learn all that. Get out there and start applying that. The final thing I want to say is, as an institution, as faculty and staff here at GGU Law, we are so proud of you. We're so proud of the work you have done. We're so proud to call you, very soon, alumni of this institution, and we're so proud of all the work you will do.